their camera. Welcome back to the Coaches Show. I'm Michael Watson, and sitting to the left of me is two coaches here at the UIS University Athletic Department. The head coach of the men's soccer team, Jesse Miech, and the head women's soccer coach, Pete Kowall. How you guys doing?
Good.
Doing well. Doing good.
Thanks.
Yep. Coach Kowall, I can start with you. Your overall record this year was 3-11 and 3 ties. Can you just give us your overall thoughts of the season?
Well, we started out well, I thought, and we had some good games. We played Lindenwood at Lindenwood in the driving rain, tornado, windstorm, and did well. We tied. We actually had a couple chances in overtime to win the game, and it sort of, I think it was sort of the way the season was going to go. We struggled at scoring goals, and if we had scored one goal, in a couple of games, I think that would have given us a little bit more momentum in the other games down the road. We lost a lot of games by 1 goal, and that just ended up being the story of our season.
Hey, Coach Miech, your team went overall 3-14 and with 1 tie. And again, I asked the same question to you. Just give us your thoughts of your season.
Yeah, I think it was. I don't know how to put it. It definitely was a positive season for us. I mean, even though you look at it as only having 3 wins, it's kind of a necessary evil. As far as going forward and rebuilding a program, we did a lot of good things. I think we were in 11 games that were decided by, a goal or less. Had 5 games out of 18 that were ties, and then trying to bridge that gap of the stats part. And I'm not a huge stats guy, but they do tell somewhat of a story. We scored like 8 more goals last season, and we let up 18 less. So I mean, that's a big thing. But in the end, we're always going to get judged by our wins and losses, and it's not good enough, but it's definitely going in the right direction. And I think my assistant said it very well, Max Rook. He, in his middle of the season, like things weren't just going right. We're in every game. We're like, how do we get over that edge? And he said, take a board, you put it across a chair, you take a baseball bat, and you hit it 1 time, you hit it 2 times. You take a picture after every single time you hit it, and you show that picture to people of not breaking the board. It's failure pretty much. But if the breaking of the board is success, you hit it that 100th time and it breaks, and you pull that picture away. No one sees the 99 times you went after it and you tried to win and tried to break the board. So it's a situation for us that it's coming. The success, it's going to be there. We're going in the right direction. It's just that record at the end. We haven't broken that board, getting through and having successful season in terms of the wins and losses.
Like you said, improvement is key for your ball club. Compared to last year, you guys got 3 more wins and more goals, lesser goals committed. And looking at your season, and as a team, what were some of the positives and maybe some of the weaknesses as a team as well?
Yeah, I think starting right off the bat with our weaknesses, it also goes along with being a positive, is that we were extremely young. Different games we started different players, but there was times where, look at our last game of the season. We're playing against Quincy, number 10 in the country. We end up getting a tie against them. They're starting 9 seniors. We're starting, 6 freshmen and 9 players that were not on the team the year before. So positive, negative, we were young, we were inexperienced, but positive is that there is the future going forward where we have a lot of guys playing a lot of minutes that are going to be here for the next 2-3 years. And then the other thing is, I think our guys get along pretty well. I mean, it's a group where, you could have a team have the record that we have, or at least over the last 2 years, 3, 4 years, whatever. But I'm going back from when I've been here. It could be pretty easy for them to turn the other direction and become negative, and they're not. And I think, we had a meeting yesterday, a team meeting, and my main thing is I'm pretty excited about this team. I'm not sitting here going, I've got to over-recruit my own players and clear house. We've got a group of 16, 17 guys returning right now, and I'm pretty excited about every one of them. And as a team as a whole, it's, the development side, there's a lot there to look forward to. So, I think that the team's in a good position right now mentality-wise.
What about you, Coach Kowall? Looking at at your team as a whole this season, what were some of the positives and maybe some of the weaknesses of your ball club?
Well, and as Jesse says, in your evolution as you're starting programs, or we starting in the GLVC, you're trying to recruit and develop players to play in this league. This league is tough. Every player can play, and some teams have a special player they go to, or like for us, it was Erin Egolf. She scored a hat trick in our last game, and I can't replace Erin. It's going to be impossible. She's probably one of the best players I've ever coached in 20 years in the air. She just understands where the ball is going to be. So it's a process. We had I think one of the best goalkeepers in the league, and she's a freshman. When I recruited Paige, I thought she was okay. I mean, in that Lindenwood game, she was unbelievable. I mean, the coach came up and said, without that goalkeeper, the game could have been 5 or 6-0, and she was right. So it's just like Jesse said, it's an evolutionary process. It's not revolutionary, and you have young kids playing in this league, and they're going to learn the intricacies of winning and losing, and we've got to get over that hump. We're at the top of we're almost at the hill there, at the top of the hill, but we got to get over there with some wins. The wins give the players confidence to say this hard work is paying off, we do all the coaching we can to try and get them to do it, but something has to happen. So for our program, that has to happen. We have to take that next step to go up the ladder in the tables and get into that 8th place, so they see that, they see the hard work pay off.
You just touched base on a few of your players that were key within your ball club. I would like to have some of your thoughts on, some of those players that stood out to you as a coach this season.
Well, and other coaches said it the same thing. Like Paige stood out for me because she keeps you in every game. With the exception of one game, she had a great season. Eileen was a fast kid up front that we put up front that normally plays midfield, and she was not used to that role of being a goal scorer. She had plenty of chances. We played Quincy at the end of the year. They won the league that night. We lost 1-0, and she had 2 really good chances. Basically, it was her and the goalkeeper. And she's not used to that role. She's used to assisting. She's used to getting down the line, beating the defender, and crossing the ball. So for her, we're going to have to work with her on understanding that role and being better technically when she's in that position of scoring goals. So those are the 2 players that kind of came in that were new. Some of our older players, that played, that we played well. Like we played 2 kids out of position, like Marissa and Emily played center back for us a large part of the season, and we didn't give up that many goals in a lot of the league games where we only lost by 1 goal. They did, I think, an unbelievable job back there. Really, with Emily with no experience playing center back. So I can go down the list, but so.
Coach, what about you though? I mean, is there any particular players that stood out from the rest this year?
Like I said, we're very young. I think the future is bright, but still unknown with guys. I mean, they haven't been through a spring season yet. We're crushing them with the weight training and the running and all this stuff. I always talk to the players about the fall is a time to enjoy yourself. The spring is a time to improve. So there's a lot to see how much learning curve that these guys have. But just going for a few players going through the class, you have someone like Mark Williams. He's from Barbados. He's a freshman. He scored 3 goals for us. I think he's going to be a kid that's going to turn it on in years to come. It's just that he was a freshman. You look at the freshmen that were up for Freshman of the Year. I think the top guy in the league was from Southern Indiana, and he had 6 goals. So Mark's not that far behind. There are other freshmen that have come in that I think are going to push forward. You go into, our sophomore class. Guys that are going to be juniors. You have players that I thought that really had a good year. Was someone like Nikita Fadiv. He's a kid that's going to be, going at people and really taking people on. And then, I think, going into our senior class, it's all our seniors right now. We have 2 goalkeepers, Jack and Cole. They both played last year, and they're going to be battling for that starting spot. So I think that's going to be a huge positive to what's going on with this team. You have Andy Rudeman, who's a transfer, very athletic kid, and probably the most athletic kid on our team. I expect him to have a great year. Nicholas Alonso, he's from Spain, a kid that's going to, do very well for us, I think, more on the leadership side and going forward and setting basically the dynamics of this group. So, basically, it's all across the board. I think it's going to be exciting, but there's a lot of development, which is positive.
Sticking with you as a coach and looking at the season again as a whole, is there a moment that stood out from the rest as a coach? Maybe a win or a goal?
It's funny that you ask, because we're always, as a team, we're always talking about, when do we become a program that everybody wants to be a part of, as far as the wins and losses. And we talked to be in the season, there's going to be that turning point. It could be the first game when you start winning games. It could be halfway through the season when, it goes back and forth. You're sitting at 500 and then you beat that top-ranked team. And it didn't come for us, until later in the year. And I thought it was a stretch that we went into. It was the weekend where we play Southern Indiana and St. Joe's. They came out, St. Joe's came out and basically, we went up on them, and then we came back and basically scored a goal, and then we lost in overtime. And then Southern Indiana, we ended up scoring 4 goals, and that was kind of the point where we started scoring goals. It wasn't about the wins and losses. It was we were in games. Then we go up and we lose to Parkside 2-1, but we score the first goal. Then we lose to Lewis, in overtime on a PK, but we scored the first goal, and it was finally like, we're here. We're this close. We're not winning, but we're this close. And it just carried the rest of the season. It's the same thing against UMSL. We went up 1-0, we lost 2-1. And finally it hit when we beat Maryville 1-0. So and then got the tie. But I think it was our last 8 games of the season, when we actually started scoring some goals. So that was our main point, when we started scoring goals on a consistent basis, and there was that self-belief was coming around.
Coach Kowall, was there any moment within the season that stood out from the rest for you?
We scored a lot of goals against a couple teams like Missouri Science and Tech, and I think for me, we had shots at the end of most of the games. Like at Lewis, we had a shot in the box to take it into overtime. Parkside, we had a shot at the end of the game to almost score. Quincy, we had a center back overlapping, crossing the ball to someone that had a shot at the end of the game. So for us, at the end of games, our players never quit. They never gave up. And I'm proud of them for that, because it was easy, especially at the end of the year. We go down 4-1 at Maryville, which was just a wild game, end up losing 5-4, and it was just a wild game, But our kids never quit, even when they were down by 2 or 3 goals in that game. And most games were not like that. It was a 1-0 fair, or 2-1, or something like that. But really, I think there's no one game. I think it's just over a period of time where I felt like, the players felt like at any given moment we can get the ball forward and score a goal, and then get a result.
Looking into the future, if you can, for next season, where do you need to improve as a team?
Well, losing a player like Aaron is a good and a bad thing. And the good thing is our players now need to take more responsibility to do more things. We no longer can cross the ball in the box and have Aaron in there heading the ball into the goal. So someone else has to do that, or we have to find another way to solve that. So, it's fun as a coach to watch those other players challenge themselves to get better, and so the team will get better. So that's our challenge, is to find more people to score goals. We have some other kids coming back, like Karen Fearing, scoring goals, and we're going to need more people to step up to do that.
And recently, I just read an article about your team actually receiving a academic award as a whole.
Yeah,
talk about that.
That's been a 4-semester process. What happens basically is if you have 2 straight semesters of 3.0 or above, the NSCA awards your team an academic award. I mean, that's been a lot of study, tables, a lot of hard work from every kid on our team to get grades so that we have that GPA. And so I'm really proud of them to get that. And that was one of the things, it was last year that I said, I showed them all the GLVC team, women's teams that have that award. And I said, this is something we want to achieve, and we did. So I'm really proud of the team.
That's awesome. Congratulations on that, by the way.
Yeah.
And Coach Miech, as a team, where do you need to improve in the offseason?
I think, we break it down for the guys, we're into 5 different areas. First off, the competitiveness of the team. And, that's just exercises, making it as game realistic as possible. So we have some things set up, some challenges within the team, some inter-squad stuff. that we can track. That's going to help that. And then we go into, basically we're talking about being technically sharper and playing faster. So, we're going to focus on that. We're only allowed to do things so many hours, but we're kind of taking the approach of frequency instead of duration, where instead of having fewer practices that go longer, we're going to have more practices that go shorter. So we're touching the ball practically every day. The other side is just sharpness of fitness, becoming stronger, faster, soccer specific, where, like I said, we got a lot of young guys, a lot of them haven't experienced a spring yet. And then we go into a mental side of things, where, like I said, I bring up my assistant. He's got some pretty good ideas and a good background with some mental training, where we're going to start getting in that, where we really didn't have tons of time to do it in the season, where, we talked about just yesterday, Creighton University, they're in the Final Four for men's soccer again. And this is like their 5th time in the Final Four. They've only missed one NCAA tournament in their existence. And they've always drafted an MLS player every single year that the MLS has been around. So the thing is, that's unique about it, is that they've had 3 different coaches in the last 4 years, and they've been to the Final Four twice now. And different players are going to come in every 4 years. Different coaches are going to come in for that program. But the culture that's set there is just the expectation to win. What's going on over there where they can have new players, new coaches, but they're getting the same results? That's phenomenal. So, if we can get inside our guys' minds and getting that confidence, that's going to be something that we're going to work on in a big way when we have time in the latter part of the spring. And then lastly, this spring's different than last spring, where last spring we didn't have a lot of guys that were going to be on this fall's roster. This year, we've got a much larger group, so we're going to tactically go after some things that will be consistent in our game plan next year, as far as set pieces, defensive, offensively, and just little things that we can do in a system. We might play a different system from the spring to the fall, but to work on things that are consistent, so we're not reteaching. And you take those 5 things, and I think we're improving all around, and that will put us in a good position next year to be more competitive than we were this year.
Yeah, I mean, you just really just touched base on my last question that I want to ask both of you is, as a coach, is there any certain goals that you want to achieve for next year as a coach? Like a win mark or?
I'm going to say it every single time, and it's the whole analogy of beating on that board. Sometimes it's got to break, and I'm not going to back off in my beliefs. And, some people may think it's naive. Some people think it's arrogant. I'm here as a coach to win a national championship. Bottom line, there's no other reason why I'm here. Being 500 in a conference, am I going to be happy with that next year? I'm going to be happier than I am this year. But it's not my ending point. It's not my goal. And I said it last year. I said everybody wants to win a national championship. That should be the reason you're there. But really, to get yourself there, it's building blocks. So I'm going to say the same thing I said last year. My goal is to get us in a position in the last few games of conference, to get us in that conference tournament. You get yourself in the conference tournament, it gives you a chance to win a conference championship. You win a conference championship, it gets you a chance to get an NCAA tournament. Therefore, you get a chance to go after the big goal, which is win the national championship. Is it realistic? I think so. I mean, it's just going to take time.
What about you, Coach?
We just need to win more games. We need to, reap the benefit of hard work and off-season work and talent and coaching and tactical organization, technical abilities. We just need to get better. Our players are at the point now where, 5 teams made the national tournament this year, and there's 8 spots for that league tournament, and that's the next step, is got to get into that to get into the national tournament. So those are our goals.
Well, good luck for you guys for next year and this off-season. And thank you very much for coming by and giving us an interview here.
No problem. Thank you.
Up next, we're going to recap the volleyball team here at UIS.